what's been very exciting for us is that our game cameras have caught both video and still images of some of this light phenomena.
Talking about what happened to set this whole thing rolling at Board Camp Crystal Mine.
Kind of started with the UFO story, and then the orbs were appearing and the levitating rocks, and now we do seem to have that Sasquatch connection.
Board Camp Crystal Mine is in Mena, Arkansas. Just to give you a heads up on it, you can check out the website, boardcampcrystalmine.com. First, I interviewed Cheryl and Orville Murphy, the owners of Board Camp Crystal Mine, about what was happening there. And I had read and seen blog posts and seen little blurbs that there were some unusual things, and I think the Travel Channel then covered it. I didn't see that. I got to see it afterwards. But it was like, okay, there's something happening here. And I had seen on their website that they shut down for a little while to do a little research because they were having levitating rocks and they were having unexplained activity, and just enough to say, okay, what the heck is this okay to open to the public? So I went to visit earlier in April because it was just one of those things where, like, this is way too curious, way too fascinating, and to have the personal experience, that's always even better. So Cheryl and Orville are back on the line, and their son Josh, who actually saw the beams the first night that they write about in their book, Beams. He saw this activity over in the back field. You guys, I am so glad that this continues to happen because it gives people a sense that it isn't just a one-off. It isn't just, you can't write it off as a figment of your imagination when you've got other people there, witnesses corroborating. And so you've got a fantastic opportunity here to kind of share the wealth of phenomena when it comes to the unexplained and paranormal. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Orville. Hi, Josh.
How you doing?
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having us on the show again, Wendy. We really appreciate that.
Okay, it's kind of a no-brainer because I went there and visited and had some interesting things happen. I had no idea because we didn't talk prior to the visit about anything Sasquatch or Bigfoot related. And then to go down there and see some of the signs in the trees that I've since done research on and said, oh, good grief, this stuff is fantastic. And it's completely and totally unexpected. So now I've done some more research, and one of the articles I picked up was from the Joplin Globe 2012 saying Bigfoot sightings are common in the four-state area. Now that's where I am, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma. And then I had just recently did an interview with a guy who did a walk in one of the state parks in Texas along a very well-known Sasquatch sighting area, the trail there, 100 miles. And he actually got a picture of an imprint. So back to your story. What's been happening?
That's really cool to hear. You know, we continue to have the phenomenon. First, it kind of started with the UFO story, and then the orbs were appearing and the levitating rocks. And now we do seem to have that Sasquatch connection, which was pointed out to us by people who are experienced with that. They lead actually like Sasquatch tours or walks through the forest. You know, it was just amazing for us to find this out. But there does seem to be, we're hearing from many sources now, there does seem to be a connection with these different entities. And maybe it's because a portal has opened, at least in our area, and perhaps in all these other areas you were just mentioning, Wendy. And maybe these entities or multiple entities are traveling back and forth interdimensionally. You know, even though that we can't prove that scientifically, but it's actually kind of a plausible theory. You know what I mean? It makes sense.
Well, you've done a whole lot of research since this whole thing started, because at the very beginning, when you first saw the beams with Josh, and Josh is there. I'm glad Josh is here because he's your go-to when somehow things happen more around Josh. Is Josh aware of that?
I don't know that I am.
Maybe he doesn't know if he wants to be.
For one thing, you can identify it. Maybe some people, it just slips by or it's too subtle for them to notice, and you seem to have a better awareness picking this stuff up. And your mom was saying something about a levitating rock experience recently.
My experience was not very recent. It was about a year ago, I think. But I was walking through the mine with Orville. He was about 5 feet in front of me. It was very dark. Couldn't see a thing. I was kind of following the glow of his cell phone in front of his face, and that's how I knew which direction I was walking. And I overheard my mom earlier speaking to you that it fell from about 20 feet. I would estimate that it was closer to about 3 or 4 feet off the ground, just from the sound of the impact that I heard. But we're walking along the trail, and then about 3-4 feet away from me to my right, just off the trail in the grass, I hear a thud on the ground. And probably the first time in my life, I think I literally jumped off the ground from fear or just from shock. I immediately flipped through my phone to get the flashlight turned on and shined it on the ground in that direction, and there was a rock sitting there in the grass. Now, I always try to say, be clear that I didn't see it with my eyes because it was pitch black out. But my sense of hearing, it obviously was that rock that hit the ground. And I don't know what height. It didn't sound like it wasn't like a very loud impact, like it had dropped from 20 feet or something. But yeah, it was just a lone rock sitting in the grass just off the trail next to me.
Board Camp Crystal Mine. It's in Mena, Arkansas. So it's down there just, on the border. The Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana area is well known for a lot of the Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings. And then I find out, lo and behold, so is Kansas, Missouri, and I didn't realize we had that connection as well. And then as I looked on the map, it's like, well, okay, there's Iowa. And the guy I just interviewed said there's like 10,000 sightings and still no acknowledgement that anything like this is legit. And that's what you guys have the opportunity to kind of tap into. Beams, the book you wrote about your first experience. Actually, you'd had some experiences before, but this was like, this was the big can't miss this one.
Yeah, one thing that's, like I said, it started with the UFO thing. And, and then I think what happens is the energy is the energy. And it's energy that we don't understand. So, and I think that there's a connection between all the different phenomenons when you're dealing with this kind of energy. And I think the big difference between the Sasquatch, the levitated rocks, the UFOs, I think a lot of it just depends what direction you happen to be looking at the time. The UFO people are always looking up. The levitated rock people are looking down, and the Sasquatch people are looking out. So, but I truly believe it's all working together. This is just a natural Earth energy that just manifests itself in certain areas, and I think it does have a lot to do with the crystals.
I think that's an old volcano area, active area, so there might be something to do with that. One of the researchers there does that kind of exploration. Did that make any sense to you when you've had so many people come in that there's something else that really supports this anomaly?
Well, yeah, because we've seen spontaneous healings from people, swelling going down in their ankles, pain going away, magnetic fields, cell phones, You can't just put your finger on it and say it's this color. It's a mix of colors. It's a mix of energies. It's a mix of everything. And I think it's kind of a personal experience to each person that shows up here.
Yeah, that's what I think is so amazing. One of the things that happened when I was there was that we were taking pictures in an area. It just kind of seemed interesting, and I was taking pictures of the rocks and butterflies, of course, things I noticed. And one looked like it might be the shadow of a Sasquatch. I'm like, what the heck? And we went over there, and there was this little area that had all sorts of different kinds of tree bends, and it was all kind of like a squared area that was protected. Orville, do you know any more about that space than what it was when you remember which area I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. And we have found tree markers is what we call them. And we have found some that are 30 days old all the way back to 30 years old. So whatever it is out there has been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
When you have large trees that are twisted together and wrapped around themselves, trees that are 30, 40 years old, that happened a long time ago, long before we were here.
That's what's so incredible about it, because after visiting, I realized that there's this history, and right up, in Mena, there's a little thing with, I think it's either, a knick-knack shop of some kind that has the Bigfoot family walking out in front. So this isn't a secret there. People are aware that this is a Bigfoot area, sighting area.
Right.
So what does it feel like to all of a sudden be the center of the the center of the party?
Well, I look at it like this. You are the guest to the party. We're just the gatekeepers. We're here to make sure that the land doesn't get abused. We don't understand the energy. We don't understand the crystal power or anything else. I don't think anybody really does. But I think we were kind of chosen to be here to just help protect it and guide other people through. We're not the ones with the wisdom and the knowledge. We just happen to own the key.
And it might be that's why you're there, because you're a safety and you don't assume anything. You just kind of say, okay, let's take it one day at a time and see what happens. In that respect, there's a lot happening. And that's part of that. Let's start off with the sighting. This is what you wrote the book about, beams, and it's got some great pictures in it so people can get an idea of what we're talking about, too. So I think, and plus, there's more that has happened. So what was it like that night when Josh showed up and you guys were you were expecting it to be a normal night?
Right. I'll let Josh go ahead and explain, give his testimony. But we had been seeing, just as a preface, we had been seeing little sparks of light in the woods, which our crystal people friends, they said was the emission of the piezoelectric energy. And we thought that was so cool. And we actually had seen it once in a while, but hadn't really focused on it till that winter of 2017. So when Josh came to visit us, we, of course, invited him to go outside that night on February 18th of 2017 and check out the little sparks of light. And then I will turn this over to Josh and let him tell you what happened.
So that day, February 18th, 2017, I arrived, and it was my first time visiting the property since they purchased it. And over dinner that night, they tell me about these orbs of light they'd been seeing, and I'm fascinated by that. Like Orville mentioned earlier, I don't know anything about this. I don't understand it. It previously wasn't my thing, So, but I'm always interested in anything like this, checking it out. So sure enough, we go in the backyard, and we're standing there for maybe 30 minutes, and we probably saw 40 or 50 orbs appear in the darkness, and they were pretty far away. So none of them were as large or colorful as the ones we've since seen. But from that vantage point that night, they were just kind of like little sparks that were popping up in the darkness, and I'm fascinated by that. So we're all standing around chit-chatting, and suddenly over the tree line, about 500-600 feet away, we see these three beams of light appear above the tree line and going up into the night sky, maybe 200 feet high. The three of them all together were maybe 60 to 100 feet wide, and they sort of just appeared and then stayed on for 7 to 10 seconds, and then they faded away. And during that time, the three of us were just stunned silent, all three looking at it with our mouths dropped open, And then as soon as they faded away, we all started asking each other, "Hey, did you just see what I saw?" So it was fascinating. And that night, I don't think any talk of UFOs or anything came up. We kind of just went in the house and we're kind of asking ourselves, what the heck was that? Was that crystal energy? And then we went to bed, and I got up and left the next day. A few days later, my mom calls me or texts me and says, "Hey, we were talking to our neighbors about what we saw that night." And they called, one of them contacted MUFON, this UFO agency. None of us had even heard of them at that time, And they're coming out here in a couple of days to investigate. It was pretty wild, and I kind of left out a part of the story. The next morning before I left, Orville and I went out to the dig site, the main dig site at that time, and started looking around, because that's the direction those beams had come from the year before. Orville starts pointing out to me that all these metal objects had been moved. There was a sign toppled over. There was fence posts in the ground that were pushed over at about a 30-degree angle in the dirt, and a few other items, some tools and stuff that had been moved. Those metal objects had actually become polarized.
The change with the polarity, the damage to the metal at this site at the top of the hill, if somebody was there, might have caused a few health issues. Orville, can you pick it up from what you guys saw the next day and explain what we're talking about with these poles? Because I saw them. The top is not the same as the bottom, and that just is mind-boggling.
Yeah, well, the posts, there were three metal T-posts up there, fence posts, and, I mean, they were magnetic. You had the north and south poles on it, so it was polarized. But the readings on some of them were 30 to 40 Gauss, which is really, really strong. You can hang paper clips on them. Wow. They were that magnetic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of metal objects and stuff that were up there were moved around and disturbed. But the real strange part is we put over 40 fence posts in, months later, and kind of fenced off the area so it wouldn't be disturbed. You can walk right up to it and see it, but we didn't want the general public getting right in there moving stuff around.
Right.
So the post we put in the ground, after about 3 or 4 days, we were up there with the gauge meter and noticed the post there had started to turn magnetic. And every day they get stronger and stronger and stronger. Then somebody came over and said, well, if you hammer on a metal post, you know, it'll make it magnetic. So, but these were measuring at 17 and 18 gauge. And it's like one post has the north at the top, another one has south at the top. So it's just, it's different. It changes. And some posts we had measured at 22 gauge, which is pretty good magnetic field. And then 3 weeks later, we check it and there's nothing there at all. And then it starts coming back again. And this time the polarity is reversed. So whatever it is continually happening, evolving, it's changing. And, it's just fun to go see. It's fun to watch it, be part of it.
Okay.
And if I can interject, those aren't the only metal objects that are magnetized either. There's since been a coffee can that Orville brought up there with some cookies one day when he was digging, and he left the coffee can out there for a few days, and sure enough, the coffee can became magnetized as well.
You've had some people who are a little bit more science-based. And one of the guys, Gary, calls himself the Sasquatch Whisperer. He had some time that he was able to spend there to do some of the research. Have you heard back from Gary about what he thinks is going on?
Yes, we have, and we really appreciate Gary's insight as more of a researcher. He has been studying, for example, earthquake faults in the area. So he's trying to look at it more geologically to see if there could be tremors that we may not feel on the surface, and yet energy could be being emitted, from the earth that could possibly be causing some of the light phenomena.
Yeah.
However, the orbs, and in fact, we just talked to Gary last night on the phone because we do check in with him now, and he was just saying last night, actually, that could possibly be true as far as energy being emitted that way and manifesting as light phenomena, because we have seen various types of light phenomena, not just the beams since then. Our cameras, our surveillance cameras, have caught just weird lights appearing and disappearing. The orb shape, yes, but also just these kind of like blobs of super bright light. But anyway, Gary's take on the orbs and some of these other light emissions, he does not feel that it meets the criteria of earthquake light, and especially the orbs, which appear in different colors. We've seen them green, purple, white with actually blue or red halos or glows around the white center, even kind of yellowish, and some are transparent. Some are, as small as maybe just a standard small flashlight, and others are even like maybe a couple feet across. Some we see with the naked eye, others are picked up with the infrared lens of our cameras. What's been very exciting for us is that our game cameras have caught both video and still images of some of this light phenomena, as well as the levitating rocks, of course. Which is amazing.
The other thing I did want to ask Orville about, because when he told me that there was something that was thrown toward him that would be a little bit intimidating if you're in that area. A marker like that said, do not go here, do not enter. I don't remember exactly what the object was, but it would be strong for somebody to just pick up and one-armed throw, especially with any force. Orville, can we talk about that one too?
Okay, I don't know if you're talking about the sawhorse.
Yeah.
We had the sign on it that said, do not enter. Gary and I were coming up out in front of the stage, and we heard a ruckus in the woods. So both of us take off running, and towards the sound. He goes straight up the hill. I turn left, and we're trying to get around this thing and get on either side of whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we could hear what is called impact tremors. As the thing was running, it was really leaving a thump sound. And there was a sawhorse down at the end of the road, and whatever it was threw the sawhorse, which cleared over our heads and went almost 100 feet. That's a long way to throw a sawhorse.
That would be intimidating. And what did you guys do from, obviously you still live there.
Yeah.
We didn't run away.
I was like,
yeah, and the thing is, we immediately quit chasing it. We figured it sort of did not want to be followed, and I better respect that. So we have so many things going on here. We have some really good information, to share about some of the new things going on out here, when you're ready, that we're really excited about.
Let's get into that in the next break. Like I said before, you guys have done a ton of research and trying to figure out what the heck is happening since you wrote the book. So, since 2017, that date you mentioned, February, this has been a really immersion into all things paranormal, unexplained, and fascinating. So let's do this next break, talk about the new stuff that you guys have experienced and what's going on there. And again, we're talking with Orville and Cheryl Murphy and Josh about the Board Camp Crystal Mine, the extraordinary things that are happening there in Mena, Arkansas, boardcampcrystalmine.com. You guys have had some extraordinary experiences up close and personal. I saw the tree, this huge log, like 20 foot high in a tree that just happened overnight. All of a sudden you went out there and there it was, and there's no explanation for it. And things like that are just par for the course. So what's the new stuff? What have you been doing?
We wanted to teach classes out here. We wanted other people to come out and teach classes. We really want, people to know that we don't own knowledge. Knowledge should be given freely and shared and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been working with our insurance company, and we finally got our approval. So in about 2 weeks, we are going to open the Board Camp Crystal Retreat and Learning Center, to where you can come out and take classes. If you have a message to share, you could become a teacher or an instructor and come out and teach classes. What we're going to try to focus on is giving everybody the ability to share knowledge.
What kind of knowledge are you focusing on? What's the
Happy
first
stuff. This is where Peter Pan learned how to fly. So we don't, we don't want to offend anybody, but we don't want to get into the dark side.
Yeah.
Okay? This is, it is a very happy place. When people show up here, they tell us about, oh, I just feel so good being here, and I got this happy feeling, and so we have sort of set restrictions to where a lot of the darker arts we don't allow out here, and we're not putting those people down. There's a time and a place for things.
We now have our insurance company's permission that we can have night walks.
Yes.
Previously, our unexplained tours entailed a night watch on our stage, and now we're going to go ahead and open it up to a night walk, which actually, Wendy, you were our personal guest at that time, so we were able to bless you with the night walk when you were with us, you and Andy.
Excellent,
but,
yes.
Now we're creating a Signs of Sasquatch class where we will have part of the class in the daylight, so we can take people out and show them what you had witnessed out in the woods, the different tree structures.
Mm-hmm.
But then now we are going to go back after dark as well and walk those same paths and see if we can experience the Sasquatch people. And, we don't look at Sasquatch as monsters. We do not believe that they're harmful, even though we've had a couple of close encounters that way. We've never been harmed. We did close the crystal mine temporarily last year when all this first started because we wanted to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
We did that all in the interest of public safety. But we reopened our crystal mine for public digging early this spring, and now we feel very confident that we're understanding the Sasquatch or Bigfoot phenomena more as they are actually benevolent entities. And somehow they are coming in and out of our physical realm and manifesting themselves. And I think they feel comfortable here. They feel comfortable with us, fortunately, and we're beginning to feel more comfortable with them. And we believe it's totally benevolent, and we're actually starting to experience contact in the way of, I guess I could call it exchanges, like gift exchanges. So in other words, we leave them food, for example, on a particular picnic table that we have at the event site. We call it the gifting table, and we leave them, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and things like that. And in turn, they have actually been leaving us like rocks. I mean, I guess they can't make sandwiches. They leave us rocks. They actually move things around, like, stuff that we know is in one spot on our property. We notice it's been moved to another spot. Yeah. And it's mind-blowing to us, but also very heartwarming, because it's like, oh my gosh, they are responding to our love and respect. And, the Native Americans believe they're not afraid of the Sasquatch. They have shared with us, some of the Native American friends that we have, going back into their folklore and their understanding. The Sasquatch people are basically another tribe. They're another type of entity. They can live here with us, among us, but they keep to themselves primarily because, there are hunters out there who would love to have a trophy. But we don't believe in that. We want to, establish a benevolent relationship with them, as well as any ETs. We haven't had so much the ET contact as yet. Right. But, at least not in that way, or a way that we can understand. But it's been very exciting to actually, we feel we're developing a relationship with the Sasquatch people. And so we want to, that's going to be one of our classes that we're going to offer, called The Signs of Sasquatch, because we want to share this with the world. We want to share that Sasquatch are not out to get us. So, well, it's an
opportunity that I don't know that exists anywhere else. I've seen where you can go and do like a walk, a camp out, or whatever, but with you having an education facility where, okay, this is how you can learn about it. And it's not just the Sasquatch, it's the other paranormal elements that go along with it, with the orbs and the things that are being moved and relocated. And plus, since you guys do have those phenomenal crystals on site, I mean, that is... just to go out and be able to pick up a beautiful crystal, or several little small rocks with have the little crystals inlaid in, and that's a treat too. I was so surprised that we were able to shadow Orville.
The crystals I think are definitely the foundation greatly. They obviously, crystals have physical geological properties that are amazing and only dedicated to crystals and their formation. And because of that, they have an electromagnetic field, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with healing somehow. We may not understand that, but obviously, the earth has its natural items, herbs, vegetation, whatever, and even now we're learning the mineral salts, for example. Those are all enhancing our physical health if we take advantage of those things. And so when we, like Orville said earlier, we've actually had people on our tours that have come to visit. They've gone up to the event site where that seems to be the epicenter of this electromagnetic field, like Orville is saying earlier, that's measurable with a gauge meter. And some people are experiencing, they're feeling better, their aches and pains suddenly disappear. We know people wear magnetic bracelets and so forth, We're learning more about that now.
There's a crystal cottage. You can actually go there and stay overnight. You can also dig the crystals if you're just going to go like for a day trip, and check it out, boardcampcrystalmine.com. It's a real opportunity to feel and experience something that still is quite an anomaly. Cheryl and Orville, I really appreciate you guys giving us a chance to come and stay. Andy and I had a blast. Josh, hang in there because you're going on a fantastic ride.
I'm really excited about it. And I would like to say you can find videos of a lot of this stuff on YouTube. You just search Board Camp Crystal Mine.
Links are in the description for the show. Thanks for listening.